All right.
I think we're live. All right, we are live.
Oh, no.
Let me double check really quick. Make sure the signal's coming through. It should be good to go. Oh, I'm seeing an ad coming through. That means the signal's going. I gotta turn off my Wi-Fi. Man, like the first few streams we did out here, like it just did not work. Like I didn't re-up my data through Kyivstar, so like I ran out of full bars data, and then like when we had Ragnar on, nothing was working. Like the first episode that we tried doing when we returned, nothing worked. Like I was sitting there sweating. Ragnar's like getting impatient, and I'm like, I'm like trying to hurry it up. But welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Kyiv, you guys. I'm live here. I'm Andrew Mercado with my co-host
Alex Kanash.
and we're joined by special guest
Dylan Burns. Happy to be here.
Dylan Burns, second appearance on Good Morning Kyiv, but as you guys know, he's a regular with us on Fridays. I announced, like I already told him before the night started that our co-stream that we usually do likely wouldn't have worked because my laptop is not built for that, and I probably need to invest in it. I probably need to invest in a gaming laptop actually, so I can do more with my applications and whatnot, because I'm very limited on that laptop. But also, I was just tired. Like I didn't sleep well the night prior. I did my war stream, and then I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed for like 4 hours. Nope. Air raid came in, missiles were coming in, sky was lit up, noises. It was a lot. So I'm sorry. Yesterday, you guys, I announced there was no war stream last night, no news updates. I got a really good night's sleep actually. So like when I woke up at 7, I was like, man, I'm bored now. I'm ready to wake up and start the day. Meanwhile, Alex, on the other hand, whew.
Well, I think, Andrew, for starters, you're just getting old, mate. You know, that's the problem. You can't,
Is that what it is?
you can't hack it anymore. Like, unlike us youngsters, like me and Dylan, you know, we've got all the energy still in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Isn't it? You know, part of that statement might not have been factual. Yeah.
So we're going to be, as you guys know, this show, we discuss whatever comes to our mind. I don't pre-plan, or me and Alex definitely do not. Yeah, we do not pre-plan. Like, that'd be too much work, I think.
It's lucky I'm wearing clothes, mate, let alone this morning, let alone actually appearing on the show. You know, the struggle is very real at the moment.
I've had 2 suggestions from Ukrainians to, like, are you going to write your questions down prior? I'm like, well, that would kind of kill the whole purpose of the show, because we literally wake up, and then, you know, I maybe will check X or something, or Twitter in the morning, just to see like if something's going on like right now to talk to with our guest. But usually it's just kind of off the cuff, and Dylan's just an amazing person to be able to just have an open flow conversation with. So
well, that's it, isn't it? You invite someone of like Dylan's caliber on, he covers for our blatant incompetence, doesn't he? Really,
yes,
by
Alex,
actually, you know, knowing something.
Alex actually offered this morning. He said, "How about Dylan just sit there and take over the show for us, and we sleep." And we sleep. Oh, yeah, that'll be awesome. You just sitting here. Welcome to Good Morning Kyiv with Dylan Burns. Everybody's like, what the hell?
And we can then just...
It's. I don't know if it's the best strategy, because on one hand, you guys are just waking up, so you're still foggy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I just finished a 6.5-hour show, right? And I haven't slept yet, and it's like 8:30 a.m. So I'm transitioning into fogginess. So we're all like in the mist right now, trying to claw our ways out.
Yeah. All in the mist, but it's all good for you guys. If you guys could like the stream, leave a subscribe. If you haven't, go to Dylan's YouTube channel. It's tagged in the title, and check his content out. But also during this stream, we're fundraising, or every Good Morning Kyiv, we fundraise for our NAFO trucks. Right, this is what we started it for, to help continue, because that's why me and Alex are even sitting here, like our purpose. Then we made more purposes as along the way, but our purpose here is to bring vehicles to Ukraine. Like, I know I do journalism and I cover the Ukraine war and all that, but I wouldn't be able to be here without the fundraisers for our trucks that we're bringing to the soldiers. So in the description, we have our next truck. It's for electronic warfare van, 4x4 van. Let's get that done. We're already like over 6,000 euro already. So we're already on our way. 55 donations, I believe. I got to check it this morning. I didn't check it. But the faster we can get that done, that can get on the convoy. Alex has another vehicle he's trying to start. We have another patch that we're trying to do with the drone team patch. So go ahead, guys, and get that going. And we got to get Dylan on one of these NAFO trucks too.
There's sorry, 1 sec. Sorry,
yeah.
just there's some bad audio and visual quality going on.
Oh, there's
it
bad
sounds
audio
like
and
here,
visual?
mate. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Oh, that's got to be fixed.
Sorry to jump in.
Oh, no,
but,
that's good.
People
Glad
are.
we-
Yeah, you know, gotta get my good side.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll fix the picture. We'll fix. Yeah, it should clear up a bit. This is random. This is a new issue.
Some people are saying it's fine now, but
Oh, it's clearing
some
up.
are saying.
Okay, I think I just
Yeah,
cleared
we'll
it up,
see.
you guys.
It
I
was-
made a minor. Yeah, it's getting clearer now. I'm sorry.
There we go.
There we go.
Crystal clear.
Okay. All right, you guys. My bad. See, even the stream is foggy this morning, Alex. We're foggy. Dylan's foggy. Stream is foggy.
It's just chaos, mate.
just
Absolute
chaos.
chaos all round.
So, Dylan, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been up to since we last saw you in July?
Well, I released. Thank you. I released that report highlighting Russian targeting of aid workers in Kherson. I published footage showing very clearly that they are targeting aid workers in the area, and they're quite proud of it because they're posting videos of them targeting aid workers. I published an interview with Kraken, a Kraken Special Forces commander who was involved in the liberation of Kupiansk, and we got some original footage of the liberation of Kupiansk to publish with that. That's over an hour-long video on the main channel. It got screwed by the algorithm, so it isn't doing too well. So if anybody wanted to go check that out, it's on Dylan Burns TV. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm getting prepared to head out east again. Do you want to guess who with?
No. Who are you going with?
Come on, you gotta guess.
Philip.
Philip? No. What group? What military group? You gotta guess.
Demining group. Demining unit.
Third Assault Brigade.
Third Assault Brigade.
You got it.
Nice.
Yay!
Third Assault Brigade.
Hey!
So I'm heading out east with Azov next week. I'm
Nice.
going to be filming a medical evac that they do.
Yeah.
Obviously, they do very dangerous work. People get injured, people get hurt, and medical evac is extremely important. And I wanted to cover the process, and I also wanted to cover what type of struggle the evacuation workers who are doing that type of work go through, because that type of work is extremely stressful. You're going to some of the most dangerous locations of the war, not to shoot back at the Russians, but specifically trying to avoid their shots, driving at extremely high speeds. And you know that as fast as you're going, your speeds, that will determine whether people live or die. It's extremely stressful work, and I'd like to talk to them about how it affects them, what type of mental health care services they're getting, and why they do the work they do. And so I'm really excited for that embed. It's not the only embed I'm doing. I'm also going to be filming artillery crews, 3rd Assault Brigade artillery crews, and filming some training up there. It's going to be about a week-long embed. I'm going up there with a friend of mine by the name of Patrick Hilsman. He's done some great work in covering the war in Syria. So I'm really excited for this embed. I didn't expect it to actually happen because 3rd Assault Brigade is pretty well known, a little exclusive.
Yeah.
You know, they're the cream of the crop when it comes to the Ukrainian military and the quality of the fighting force. But I had a good fixer. I knew the right people, and that's always what journalism in this country is.
Yes.
It's not being pretty. It's not, necessarily having all the money. It's knowing the people.
Yes.
You can have all the money in the world if you don't know the people and you don't know how to, rub shoulders with them the right way.
Yeah.
You're not getting anywhere.
Exactly, and I agree with that wholeheartedly because coming to Ukraine, I had no idea how I was going to be able to go. We and Alex just came back from the east, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know how I was going to get to Kyiv, let alone now I'm going to the east and I'm getting to be with artillery units and actually the 3rd Assault Brigade, and it's because of what we're doing on our end, helping out with vehicles. But that's what you said. That's what it takes for me. I'm a random. I didn't really build too much rapport with Ukrainians prior to the war, so I understand. I'm just some guy from the United States, so I feel my way to get connected, and so they can, I'm a trusted individual that just wants to tell their story. But here's some trucks at the same time, or here's some drones. I got you. I'm here to just be your voice as best as I can, the way I see it.
Oh, the NAFO trucks is definitely a great way to start conversation. Hey, you want some free stuff? Would you also like to sit down for an interview?
Exactly.
It's a good way to get an interview. You're certainly they've got motivation to do it. I am really excited to go out there, but I wanted to ask you, since you've actually embedded with 3rd Assault before me, I need to ask you, What was the impression you got of them?
Oh my god, professional immediately. Like they know what they're chill. They know what they're doing. We got to spend time with them in the East, and I got a video coming out too of the range we got to go to, because again, we give these vehicles to them, and like they take us out on their like a group of us to their range, and they send us through a little bit of instruction so we can see like how their instructors work and like their process, and it's just so professional and precise. No words are wasted. Every action is important. Like they don't waste any time, and I'm not saying like the U.S. military wastes time, because we don't. We have a pretty strong regimen too when it comes to training, but I feel like this was like so much more effective. I don't know if it was a language barrier, because like it made me pay attention more, because like, okay, all right, but they were able to instruct me how to fire like 3 weapon systems that I've never fired before efficiently.
Did they do it without any translation?
They had, they had the person in our group translated it, anything that I need to know. But honestly, when they were giving commands in Ukrainian and on things, and they were using their hands, like I could kind of understand what they were talking about.
Journalism has made me appreciate a lot more how much communication is nonverbal and how much you can really get across with just facial expressions, hand gestures. And honestly, if it wasn't for these 2 hands right here, I don't think I would have gotten as far as I have, just pointing at things and saying, that, and the few words of English they've learned through movies and stuff like that. But I just remembered, there's one thing I did do. I did do another embed out east, actually, that I forgot to mention. I did work with evacuation of civilians, not medical evac, but evacuation with civilians. I embedded with a friend of mine by the name of Dima, who I was actually with in Kherson. He was the guy who helped John Jones, my friend who was injured, get to safety, and he helped transport them out in an armored car. Very nice guy. A little crazy, if I'm being honest. When we were going out to Chasiv Yar, because we were going to be doing evacuation for Chasiv Yar, we stop outside of the city. He's like, oh, my body armor's busted. And he takes out duct tape, and he just starts duct taping the body armor to his body.
What the hell?
This guy's been involved in evacuation of Mariupol while it was surrounded. Wow. This guy's been involved in evacuation since the start of the war. His armored trucks have been hit directly by Russian missiles. He puts himself immensely in harm's way and stays relatively pretty chill about it. I mean, we were in Chasiv Yar, which is very close to Russian positions, and it was constantly getting shelled the entirety of the time we were there. And he was just vibing. I remember, like, there were shells falling, and he stopped in the school. He's like, oh, that's a really cool globe. And he picked it up. He was like, look at this globe. And I'm like, he went, it's like, I'm going to take this home. This is pretty cool. And the whole city's getting bombed. Yeah. And I guess that has been normalized to him just through so many evacuation jobs. We also went down to the Rehiv access. We went to a Rehiv, and we did evacuation work down there. I got a really strange impression from evacuation work that I didn't expect. I thought that my time and I don't know if this is what we would consider a hot take, right? Hot take in the morning show for everybody out there.
Morning show hot take coming in.
Morning show hot take. I expected that my time in these frontline communities would make the amount of sympathy I had for the people who are still there grow immensely, and I had the exact opposite effect. And I don't know if you ever have had this effect or had this feeling as well, but I saw the conversations that evacuation staff was having with the locals that were still there, and the back and forth debates. And it was extremely frustrating to just have him say, this city is under constant bombardment, it's extremely dangerous, we want to get you out of here, your life is in danger, the life of people who are coming to you to bring you supplies are in danger to continue helping you here. You gotta leave, soldiers can't take up positions here because they know that civilians are hurt. And it's like, well, no, everything will be fine, everything's okay, don't worry about it, it's fine. But then, a lot of times they'll follow up by asking for more supplies. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't get supplies, I'm not saying that they shouldn't get help, but at a certain level, that stubbornness is not only endangering them, but it's also endangering the aid workers that are necessary to help bring them the supplies and bring them what's necessary for them. And from my conversation with aid workers, that's a problem and a frustration that's sometimes very hard for them to express, because they don't want to make these people feel bad and then not take the aid, because for that, if they weren't to take the aid, then maybe they would run out of water, run out of food, run out of medical supplies. And if they get hurt, which is likely in the places that they're living, that'd be a major problem. And Dima worked very hard to make sure nobody ever felt ashamed because of their decision. But I could tell just from the conversations that it was incredibly frustrating, because he got very, very energetic trying to convince them, you gotta leave, there's people who will take you in. In one instance, we talked to somebody who he was trying to debate into leaving. It was probably like a 70-year-old woman, somebody who, if they got injured, it's very hard to imagine that they would necessarily have the strength to take care of themselves in that situation. And they expressed that they not only had a place they could go to, that the family was begging for them to leave, but they wouldn't leave. Now, what motivates somebody to be that stubborn? And I've come to a few conclusions. Part of it, and this is the stuff that's most understandable to me and I'm most sympathetic towards, it's that they're scared that the place is going to be looted, or they're scared that if the Russians do take it, they're going to take some settler, they're going to put them in their home, and they're never going to see the home they lived in and were raised in by their parents. It could be multi-generational home. A lot of these people only know these villages. They've lived there their entire life, and you're asking them to leave and possibly never return. They have no idea when they're going to return. And so obviously that's an extremely difficult decision. That's something I'm very sympathetic to. Some people, quite frankly, are just extremely hard-headed and very like independent streak, like I don't need no man to take care of me, that type of way. And that I'm a lot less sympathetic towards. But that dynamic is, I wish it was talked about a little bit more, because there needs to be something done to get these people out of these frontline communities, because they're not just endangering themselves, they're endangering other people too.
100%. Alex, you can speak on some of that too from what you've seen, right?
Yeah, I think there's different levels to it. Like, there are people that do need to be rescued and taken to safety, like not necessarily in some instances because they want to, for some of the reasons you've explained. They don't want to give up their homes, they're worried about it, or actually in some instances they're quite happy being there. But also those people do endanger the soldiers that are fighting in the area, because they do try and look after them, and then also the evacuation teams that go in to try and get these people out, because it's ridiculously dangerous driving up to the front line in a 4x4 and then standing there arguing with a babushka for half an hour around whether or not, like, she can take...
Not exaggerating about a half an hour either.
No, there are many instances where they have to have a long argument around whether or not they shouldn't be staying somewhere that's under constant artillery fire.
We met this one woman, and we were in a rehab, and that's what the Zaporozhye front is. That's probably the most violent front in the entire war right now. Hellish conditions for everyone involved. I was in a rehab 4 or 5 months before with a military chaplain. Completely different city. It feels like the city was somewhat damaged then, but now like every building's damaged. All the apartment buildings are completely burnt. Their insides are gutted from just their insides just burning up and turning into ash. Everybody's living underground, except for a few people who are wearing the armor that I call the I don't give a fuck armor, which is they wear nothing. I saw this one guy walking around just in shorts. Wow. Just in shorts, no shirt, and flip-flops, like just the most stone-cold face in the world, and he's got a big bandage on his back, maybe from shrapnel, maybe from something else, who knows, just walking around as I hear small arms fire in the distance.
Just it puts it into a perspective, and like you had said, when you're over there, you're driving so fast. Like, that was the first thing I noticed. Like, you're going at least 160 kilometers an hour, like at least one. Like, we're going so fast, or I had to hold on, or like we hit a bump and I hit my head on the top of the 4x4, because you got to move that.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, you got to move over there. Like, you are driving very fast over there in the east, and like Dylan had just said, taking cover. Like, I have a whole video that I'm still waiting to release, and I need to have translated. Because when we had pulled off for a rest on the way to Kramatorsk, we had stopped at this apartment structure that got completely destroyed. Like, it just, and then while we were there, like looking at it, an individual who had taken shelter and refuge came up and started explaining the story. And then he took us, like, we went around the building, and there was this hole, and it led underneath the apartment. It was like a cavern under the apartment, like a big open cavern under there, like a cave basically. And this is where they stayed, and I have all this on video. And I walked in, I got in there and got underneath, and it, like, the ceilings are right here, and it's like I was just like kind of nervous, like imagining the weight of the rubble, like in case it could come down. But they were under there while the building's getting hit, like, and that's just unimaginable. Then we go in a little further, and you can see where their beds were, and there's like pillows on the ground and blankets, and shit's broken. And then you go a little bit further, and then this guy explained that his group lived. They were like taking cover there, and then you look over and there's a destroyed wall and then open, and the people that were taking cover in the next room all died because the missile came in and all of the building came down on them, and they were in the, like, literally there's a wall and then it was their room, and it's just absolutely horrible. Like, going to the east, like, yeah, Kyiv. We have air raid alarms, and the ballistic missiles come in. Air defense works amazing, but when you leave Kyiv and you go out to the east where there isn't Patriot missile systems and they don't have the best air defense like they do here in Kyiv, and it just adds a layer of understanding that this is, like, Ukraine needs all of the aid that we can get, because they are fighting a war that many people don't even understand. Even people that are covering this war from a third perspective, that haven't been out there and haven't seen it, and they're supportive of Ukraine. Even there's still things that they likely don't even understand from that experience. It added a whole another level of understanding to that scenario. But specifically the fast driving was. Like, wow, like I even had to learn how to drive fast too, because I drove and I had my foot down, and that was very fast.
50% of the reason I wore my helmet in the cars near the front line was because my head just kept hitting the roof, and it'll constantly hit the roof, definitely when you're going at those top speeds. The reason why people need to drive so fast is because you get within artillery range and you get within mortar range. That is where 60 to 70 to 80% of the deaths in this war have come from. Artilleries, mortars, and different types of shelling like that. And if that's where the majority of deaths are coming from, and it's coming from these frontline areas, then you need to get through that area as fast as possible. Because if you slow down, if you stop for too long, and they spot you with a drone or with some other means, and they find out where you are, they're going to try to adjust the artillery, find out your location, find out the coordinates, fire, and wipe you out. And so if you stop for too long, that, like, 5-minute piss break could be your last piss break. As for people living on the front lines, I mean, this is a really, like, mean, like, kind of aggressive way to say it, but it felt like it wasn't living, it was barely surviving. They lived as close as a human can live to a rat underground, just constantly underground, because if you step outside for literally 5 minutes, that's how long it takes for an artillery shell to kill you. So everybody's living underground constantly. They've got their beds there, they've got their food there, they've got everything there, and the only time they really leave is to pick up supplies of some sort, or maybe if they don't have a bathroom underground, to, like, take a quick dump. But they live constantly underground, usually without power, many times without a means of communicating with people outside of these regions too. If electricity's out and they don't have charging blocks and there's nobody coming by with a charging station, communication with these people can be knocked out quick, and that's very, very terrifying for the families who are in Kyiv, who are trying to convince these people to leave. But it's not living out there, it's barely surviving.
Exactly. It's a different environment, you guys. Different environment. And I have video of all that I will post on the YouTube channel eventually. I'm working on our range video, which is going to be a good one, like a badass video, but the more serious ones of, like, us spending time at this apartment, and then going to the artillery position are two videos that are going to be coming out later. Alex, why don't you go ahead and give us the weather, but weather break, and then we'll dive in. I want to ask Dylan about Poland.
Well, I mean, it's looking like it's starting well today, isn't it? The blue sky is back, the British grey has gone, and it's looking like it's going to be a pretty hot day here in Kyiv. To give you the American stats, first of all, we're currently at 61 Fahrenheit, but we're going to have highs of up to 79 today, which is pretty good. And it's looking like that's going to continue into the weekend, where we'll get up to highs of 82 with bright sunshine the whole time.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and so we're all looking forward to that. Obviously, Andrew's going on a little bit of a field trip that I'm sure he'll explain about, where no doubt hopefully it'll be grey and raining, while me and Dylan are back here enjoying the beach and the sunshine.
So thank you, Alex, for that weather report. And yes, I am going to Kharkiv this weekend with a viewer, and we're going to go interview Fumi-san.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. He's a fluent Japanese speaker. He's from Japan. He's working with organizations here to try to get more Japanese money into Ukraine for aid and assistance. So
that is the dark horse of aid to Ukraine if I've ever heard it. People don't know. Japan has contributed billions upon billions of dollars, and they get basically no coverage in the Western press for it. If you were to ask people the type of aid that Japan provides, nobody knows about it. Everyone knows about Poland. Some people, Germany, France. Nobody talks about Japan's aid.
Well, we'll have an opportunity to do that too, because I'm going to learn more and ask. His name is Graybeard in the chat. It might be in the chat right now, and I got to meet up with him. He actually has things for both of us. I went to bed. Yeah, he has like this. Yeah, because he's a fan of yours too, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a big fan of you.
Okay.
So.
Probably a cool guy.
Yeah, he has I guess he has this switcher or something for our streaming or something that he wants to show.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested. I love free things.
That's what I'm saying. And he had messaged me to meet up yesterday, but I was already tied up, and then I was editing and went to sleep. But I have to link up with him today, and then me and him are heading out to Kharkiv tomorrow. So
yeah, good luck, man. I'm happy that you're getting an opportunity to see a lot of the country out east, because a lot of people will go to Lviv and go to Kyiv and then they'll stop there because it's the safest, and obviously not everybody is built to go out east, but the more that can be highlighted and recorded and that history can be documented, the better. The first draft of history is journalism.
There we go. First draft of history is journalism. Let's get your take on the Poland-Ukraine situation. Good news yesterday that Lithuania was kind of mediating, it seemed.
Yeah, I got very angry on my stream about the situation. I got to the point where I was arguing with Polish viewers in my chat. So it's also something that I'm starting to see, that's even certain Polish people that support Ukraine, it's starting to create some of a rift. I remember one of them looked at me and said, "Dylan, you just think Ukraine can do no wrong." And that's true. I'm kidding. But My problem with the situation is I understand Poland's interest in what. For those of you who don't know the situation, I guess I should explain the situation before I explain my grievances. So Ukraine can no longer transport grain through the Black Sea because the Russians will bomb it, or they're blocking it, and they control 80% of Ukraine's coastline. And so Ukraine has had to try to find other methods to transport grain. They've tried the Danube River. Those locations have also been bombed by the Russians as well. But one of the options, and this is a time-old option now, it's been around for hundreds of years, is by rail. Problem is for Ukrainian farmers that transporting by rail costs 4, 5 to 6 times more than transporting it by water, and so that's a massive expense for the average Ukrainian farmer. So they're already in a difficult situation, and so the European Union, in acknowledgement of this, wanted to make it so that the export controls and all the other stuff that used to affect Ukrainian grains, as they weren't an EU member state, they would remove it. Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and a few other EU member states, though, were concerned at how this could disrupt their local economies. And so the EU made an agreement with them that up till September of this year, they could have some sort of import restrictions placed upon this so that the grain wouldn't necessarily need to be imported to the country. September comes by, most of the countries that objected, be like, okay, so we agreed for a year, we'll step back. 3 didn't. Slovakia, Hungary, and Ukraine. Slovakia has already come to some sort of agreement. Hungary, they're not coming to an agreement. In fact, Hungary decided to expand the ban to include things like meat and poultry and other products as well, which seems to be mostly just a statement to say, screw you, Ukraine. Yeah, and the Poles also extended their import restrictions. And so the Ukrainians came out with a statement at the UN that said that this is basically like an offering or something that helps Moscow, that this undermines the Ukrainian economy, undermines Ukrainian people, therefore undermines Ukraine's defense against Russia. And so then the Polish prime minister responded by saying, this is like a drowning person dragging you down with them, which I thought was pretty bad. But then he got worse because he followed up the next day after that UN speech by saying that Ukraine will no longer be getting Polish weapons. And later there was clarifications and there was other things, and certain outlets covered it worse than others. And what was not included in a lot of the reporting was the reason why Poland is not going to be sending new weapons is because they basically expended the entirety of their old Soviet stockpiles. Now, still, I think that the stuff that they're getting is better suited in the active war that we know is happening right now and not in the war that might never come. So I still think that Poland could contribute more. But out of all the countries I criticize, Poland's not at the top of my list when it comes to contributing more to Ukraine. But the timing of that statement was unbelievably inappropriate. The Russians right now are looking everywhere for cracks in the armor that is the will of the West, the collective West. I hate the term, but that's how that's the term everyone uses. They're looking for cracks in the will to support Ukraine. They're seeing it a little bit in the internal politics in the United States when they hear statements from people like Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and they try to foment that. Or the recent, I want to talk about McCarthy in a bit if we can. Oh boy, I don't like, I like a man with a spine, so I don't like McCarthy. But they want this type of divisions in the alliance supporting Ukraine. And so they're going to take that statement and they're going to run it again and again and again and again on Russian state TV. And they're going to use that to say, look, the West, that coalition to support Ukraine, it's paper thin. Less than 2 years, we already see them turning against each other. Not just anyone, Poland, which the whole world knows is one of the most ardent supporters of Ukraine. And all of a sudden, they're announcing they're not sending weapons. And that is what they ran with. And that is what other people who are against aid ran with. So the messaging sends the worst possible message to the Russians when the message they should be receiving is there is no end in sight for you. The longer you do this, the more of your men you're going to send off to a pointless death. Stop the violence, stop the bloodshed, and leave. We're not breaking. How long do you want to destroy your economy? That should be the message. Not, well, maybe we're going to fall out of line and, our grain. And over this, over grain, look, I understand that Polish farmers have an interest in protecting their internal markets from grain being dumped on them and them undercutting their prices. That's an understandable concern, but local grain prices, ethnic cleansing. One of these things are not like the other. And I feel like there is other ways to resolve it, and Ukraine bringing it to an international court could have had the Polish government respond, yes, we will beat you in the international court because Poland's strong, Slava Poland, whatever. They could have said that and it could have been done with it. But instead, they had to connect that statement and drop it in the worst possible moment.
And you're so right too, because my Facebook page is just ridden with riot porn addicts from 2020 that, like I had said before we went live, people that liked watching the police just absolutely flashbang tear gas protesters. That's why they were watching. And so I had a lot of people following me for that. Well, ironically, those same viewers are they carry pro-Russia narratives and are MAGA, and it's kind of all one basket of the same. So I even in my comments, because I had wrote last night before I went to bed, we need to be sending everything that we can to Ukraine and put the Ukraine flag on there. And most people agreed, but my comment section, there's 400 comments, and most of them are not supportive of aiding Ukraine. And many of them were using Poland not sending weapons as look, even Poland's not sending weapons to Ukraine anymore. And it's exactly what you were talking about. It's that crack, it's that rift, it's that Russia will use that as the avenue now. Okay, now we have a new narrative we can use. Poland isn't going to aid Ukraine anymore, so we're going to lean into that. And then those that already weren't going to be for Ukraine, or maybe they were on the fence, were oh wow, the number one ally of Ukraine now isn't even going to help them. Why should we?
The best thing everybody involved in this grain kerfuffle can do right now is de-escalate the rhetoric immediately. And that means both the Russians and the Ukrainians, everyone, just resolving this either behind closed doors, resolving it in the international court, which is what the Ukrainians want, or resolving it through some third-party intermediary in Europe. That is what they should do. This public back and forth jostling, which the Polish government, the Law and Justice Party, and I'm going to be frank here, I think is doing it largely for political reasons. The Law and Justice Party's hold does not look fantastic. Donald Tusk is actually making a decent enough run at it. Who knows if he's going to win or not? Who knows how the Polish election is going to go? Polling is not necessarily always the most accurate, but they want to push this message because the Law and Justice Party, the ruling Law and Justice Party, a very, I would say, pretty right-wing party, wants to win over the rural farmers. And the rural farmers are concerned about this, so they want bellicose rhetoric from their politicians, and this is the result of it. He could have given that bellicose rhetoric to get their support while not dropping that type of message.
Right. Literally, especially the mess. Yeah, it upset me. I came back. We came back from Kramatorsk, and that was the news. I'm oh man, it was just depressing times. Alex, what's your take on the situation at this point now?
I think it's getting a bit more complicated than it was at the beginning. In simple terms, that there was, after a bit of a slow start, a fairly universal wall of support for Ukraine and damning of the Russian aggression, and the problem with any war over a sustained period of time where it costs money of help from other countries is it's hard to maintain that support the whole way along, especially when in their own domestic worlds, to them, they have other problems and other things that they've got to try and balance, and we have that in the UK with elections coming up, and you have it in America, and basically national politicians of their countries will do the things that help them retain power, and in some instances that are popular messages with their people, not necessarily what the right thing is to do. I do agree with Dylan in the way he put it very clearly that the Polish president certainly went pretty large with his statements.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, thank you. You see, that's why Dylan's here, you see.
Exactly.
To deliver the competence. And it is disappointing because they are a close neighbour, and they do 100% understand the risk of Russian aggression. Hence, they seem to have bought pretty much every bit of military equipment in the world right now to defend their own country. But I don't think the answer is ever to get isolated when you're facing a large aggressive force. You have to show a solid wall of united power and words, and I don't think what he said benefits anyone in the long term.
Not at all. Not a good choice of words. I can only hope that the meeting with the Lithuanian president yesterday with Zelensky and Duda went well, and they can find a way to solve this this beef beyond this, because Ukraine and Poland are very close allies. So let's get your take now. Speaking of people that are anti-Ukraine, let's just do it. McCarthy and GOP in the United States in the House of Representatives.
The GOP currently in the House are in complete disarray. Kevin McCarthy is trying to find some way to pass a spending bill or some type of supplemental spending bill that could at least extend negotiations. But the tail is wagging the dog. A small collective of extremists within their party continues to hold them hostage. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and other of those associates, people, birds of a feather flock together, people who are people of that fringe, are holding him hostage on a number of issues. Whether it be, the military's too woke, so we can't fund it. Or, this aid to Ukraine is completely pointless, and so I won't vote for anything, and I will stop every bill that funds anything for Ukraine. And they get such a platform on the national stage. It's so talked about, but we're talking about 15% of Congress dragging the rest of Congress by the nose. That's what we're talking about. The tail wagging the dog is how Jim Clyburn put it, which I thought was perfect. And that's not how politics is supposed to work. It is a bipartisan consensus amongst the vast majority of congressmen and amongst the majority of Americans that we need to continue to support Ukraine, both for the moral reasons of the struggle, the ideological reasons of the struggle, and the national security interests of the struggle. And everybody seems to agree with that, or at least the majority of the people in Congress seem to agree with that. But that small group, because Kevin McCarthy sold his soul during the speakership race, saying, you guys can do a recall vote anytime, one single congressman can start a recall vote. Once he made those deals with the devil, those devils have claws in those contracts. And now he's looking at the claws and he's getting frustrated. I'm being told from some of my friends on the Hill that he's cussing people out in private meetings. I remember once there was this, I think the story I heard was Matt Gaetz was suggesting new alterations after concessions had already been given, or was something with one of those fringe officials, and they started to float the idea of a new speaker vote. And he said, then call the fucking vote, was his response. So he's getting a little angry, he's getting a little mad, a little salty, but he made his bed and now he's lying in it. The problem is, it's not just Kevin McCarthy getting humiliated with votes that we haven't seen ever in the United States, of the Republicans with a majority failing on their own defense spending bill. How does that even happen? I mean, I'm listening to so many different congressmen and senators. I've never seen this. People with 60 years, 50 years of experience on the Hill. How does this happen? But he made the bed and now he has to lie on it. The problem is, though, he's dragging the entire rest of the country with him. There was a short period of time for the last few days after a Pentagon statement on Tuesday where when we were talking about this government shutdown, which is now only 8 days away for everybody who's counting down the clock, there was concern that because a lot of what was considered non-essential national security defense spending would no longer be covered, that the training of Ukrainian troops on Abrams, the training of Ukrainian troops in general would be halted. That the aid that we're sending over there would be halted. Thankfully, after a meeting Zelensky had with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, that has been avoided, but that was a real risk, and Republicans barely reacted to it. That had no impact on Kevin McCarthy's position whatsoever because he's being led by the nose. Now, that doesn't mean there's no risk, because if federal employees are furloughed, which is definitely a risk during a shutdown. I grew up in a federal employee household, but my grandmother and grandfather who raised me, worked for the federal government. My grandmother as a research cook, my grandfather as a machinist for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And when the government shut down, neither of them worked. They stayed home. And so the people who transport these weapons, who are going to be part of the process of bringing them over to Ukraine, if they're furloughed, they don't move. They don't move. And so even though we've avoided the biggest risk, that risk is still there. A government shutdown, the longer it goes on, the more of the government just starts to collapse in on itself. And we need to stop playing footsie with the government going bankrupt. We need to stop playing footsie with the government shutting down. Not only is it bad for Ukraine, it's just bad for governance. When you're talking about somebody wanting to invest in American bonds, we're talking about the world reserve currency, a powerful dollar. Do you think that inspires confidence to see congressmen every few years playing footsie with shutting down the country this way? No, it doesn't. It doesn't inspire confidence in investors. It doesn't inspire confidence in the American public, and it hurts the American economy, and it also does things like shut down national parks all across the country. The problems with Medicaid, there's so many levels to this that the Republicans are willing to ignore in order to cover the topic, the very important topic, a real national security issue, of wokeness in the military. Or, for example, Senator Tuberville, the football coach, Mr. Pigskin. He is willing to stop all these officer appointments in the government, in the military. He's willing to slow down the Joint Chiefs of Staff being appointed, the new head of the Marine Corps. I think over 300 to 400 different officers of varying levels, which used to be bipartisan approval. He's holding it down because he's angry that service members can get reimbursed for going out and transporting themselves into another state after abortions were banned in their state, so they can get that type of health care. Now, you might disagree on that. That's fine. It is what it is. Well, get your guy elected in 2024 and change the policy. He's holding the whole country hostage, our military hostage, our national security hostage, because he doesn't like abortion. Well then, go propose legislation to stop it. That's how this country works. But instead, he wants to basically hold our military or national security hostage over this type of obstructionist politics. And that seems to just be the theme of the Republican Party nowadays. Kevin McCarthy cannot get them under control. And it's not just hurting aid to Ukraine, it's hurting the United States as well.
Very good points, Dylan. Just cooked there. Let me get fire emojis in the chat and clapping emojis. Yeah, I'm not even going to add to that. Dylan said everything that needs to be said. You know, that's what that is. Alex, let's take some viewer questions. I'm sure you have some saved up.
I was listening to
I
what
was
Dylan
too.
was
I could
saying
listen to him. We should just give him another topic and let him just let him go.
I was more thinking I might go on strike actually and form a trade union for the GMK. Try and get some better pay and conditions for us T-boys and weathermen. I think I'm just trying to figure out how to actually operate this thing again. There were some fan funding things that have happened. I'll just rattle through them briefly, Andrew.
Okay.
Dubsy Dabson gave a couple of dollars. Thanks very much. Armoured Rabbit Hamster, I think that is.
Yeah.
Gave some money for a breakfast fund for you to probably go and have a Spanish breakfast.
Oh, yes.
I haven't eaten in a while. I'm hungry.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have some good breakfast, you guys.
Bendy Bott and Ken Patterson gave $10 each for energy drinks for me and caffeine funds,
Yes.
which I think is
The
needed
caffeine
because
fun's very important.
Dylan last went to sleep in, I think, February 2022. No, he's pretty much still going. Nevermore Ranch and Sanctuary brackets Jay. Thanks, Jay. $10 says he loves GMK and you guys. Dylan and Merck super animated, whilst Alex is probably wondering about the weather. Fairly accurate. Aussie T gifted memberships. I still don't really understand what a membership is, but Aussie T seems to chuck them around like sweets. So fair play. And Mets fan who's been a member for 2 months says, "I just hope the Kremlin gets hit with a bunker buster." Yeah, okay. That's Jean-Marc the Pagan Owl. Last Good Morning Kyiv, did you see my super chat about good Ukraine tourniquets? I think you're probably talking
maybe
about
Dylan
the
might know
Dnipro.
a little further too. So the big argument right now is the Dnipro 2 versus the cat tourniquets. And for me, I don't know the arguments. Okay, so I'm not even gonna. I don't have a dog in the fight between the two. But I just know as being ex-military, we use the cat tourniquets, and like that's the one that I know is certified, trusted. So like that's the ones that we're bringing. But there's this energy about this Dnipro 2 tourniquet.
I don't know a lot about it,
Yeah.
but the people that I trust on issues like this, what they tell me is,
Dnipro 2 is good.
the cat tourniquet's better, but at the end of the day, they have a tourniquet shortage across the board, and the Dnipro 2 is not like killing soldiers in the way that people are saying.
Okay.
That's what people that I trust have told me, but I'm saying that other people have told me that. So I can't swear for that, but that's what I've been told by people that I've asked about this.
We plan to have Brandon from the Hospitaliers on next week, and he will provide the insight on that, you guys, for you. Okay, go ahead, Alex.
In terms of questions, they've sort of disappeared a bit down the line now. There was one earlier on, Andrew, that was for you around like, as you're basically now living full time in Ukraine. Whether or not you might look to go towards getting, a press accreditation and just living in a hut in the east or something like that. Interviewing
Well, in terms of
people.
the press accreditation, Dylan here actually helped me with all the paperwork that I need.
Did you get it?
I'm working on it. I have like a couple more papers to do because I had my editing to do too. It's like I actually have a lot of work to do. But yeah, Dylan sent me everything and basically just here's the template. Fill in your information and send it in, and then I can get approved, which actually will help me come back here and be here for beyond the limit, right?
The thing that's great about the thing is I have both things I compliment Ukraine when it comes to the press and things that I criticize when it comes to the press. One of the things that I really like about the press is the press card system and what it means for like residency in the country. If you have a press card, you can stay in the country as long as it's like good. You don't need like extended visas. You can stay as long as you want, as long as that keeps getting renewed.
Yep.
You can stay as long as you want. That isn't true for volunteers. That isn't true for actually, I think it might be true for volunteers as well. But that isn't true for somebody who doesn't have a press card. And so for me, that makes staying in this country so much easier. I don't need to worry about the paperwork. I'm not worried I'm going to be taken up by Zelensky in the middle of the night and you're being deported, Mr. Illegal, and thrown off the border. That's not going to happen. And so that's very useful for me. So and it should be useful. It would be useful for you, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. So I can, because like, as you guys know, without a visa or anything, like we can only be here for 90 days every 180 days, and like I'm well within that, but they add up really quickly, and that would suck to like even though I'm coming like every other month, I'd have to wait like 180 days. Like if I hit the limit, then I couldn't come back for like 180 days again, and that's like a long time. So I got to get this press card done.
I think the Ukrainians realized very early on, and maybe this is, again, the marketing genius of Zelensky. You can believe that maybe an actor isn't the best economist in the world or whatever, but one thing that everyone agrees that he's good on is marketing. Yeah. And he knows it because he has an experience in media. He knows marketing, he knows media, and the Ukrainians understood that if they wanted the world to concentrate on Ukraine and pay attention to Ukraine, they need to make it relatively as easy as possible for journalists to be here when these big stories happen. If I didn't have that press accreditation system, maybe I wouldn't have been here during Kherson. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to go down there and cover what happened and get that footage of those war crimes, have that history documented. And that's true for a lot of other journalists that go through the press card system. So I think it was a really smart move by the Ukrainian government.
And I can't wait to get that accreditation because it's going to be it'll be very helpful. All right, Alex, let's continue. A few more. About 10 more minutes.
Just
and
a
then-
question on roles in the U.S. government.
Oh,
There's a
fun
question
one.
here around: is there a term of office for the U.S. security advisor position? I think the guy's called Sullivan. Is that right? Like someone's
Sullivan.
asking: is there any hope that he'll be replaced by someone more sympathetic to Ukraine?
Probably not. It's not a term thing. It's like an appointment thing. So they get appointed and they can stay as long as they want until Biden dismisses him. So unless Biden says "Batko nash Zaluzhny, out," and I doubt he's going anywhere.
It's like serving at the pleasure of the president is what it's called, basically.
Zelensky. Sorry, I'm tired. Biden.
We wish.
Biden is somebody who I think is very much like, we all need to come together.
Come together, man.
Come on, Jack.
Come on, Jack.
All this division's a bunch of malarkey, man. And so I would imagine in his mind, and this is me assuming his intentions, in his mind, he would like to have a critical voice in the room when somebody's yelling attack him to say, well, slow down.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably like the mentality he has about it, which in this case I think is not as good. But I don't think Jake Sullivan's going anywhere.
All right.
Greybeard might have some help as well on the visa thing, but I think you're going to meet him later.
Yeah,
So you can chat about that. Someone's asked, is United 24 a real thing?
So they responded back, and the way that they put it was they want me to put videos in my community tab or something. I have to look into it further, but then also we're going to talk with Starsky tomorrow, and I'm going to like show him the stuff and like ask him if like this is something that's going to be.
I worked with him. I can tell you what it was like.
Okay, cool. Now Dylan will help too then. So we'll double check, triple check. It looks like good news. Another YouTube channel announced that they got the same thing. So I'm assuming that it's legit. But with everything, we got to double check and verify. And if it's nothing, and even Dimitri messaged me.
I saw the email. I think you got literally the same guy I got.
So a lot of us are getting contacted by this communications manager, I guess, or whatever. Another YouTube channel made it seem like they were bestowed upon by God, or like the Ukrainian government were finally recognizing them for their hard work.
I mean, it was created. I believe United 24 was created by presidential decree, so it is like very obviously affiliated with the Ukrainian government. And so I don't think I would ever work for them because I'm very much about like editorial independence.
Yeah.
But if they want to give me a good content to go interview someone, I'm not gonna look that side-eyed.
Exactly. That's what it is, because if we have to enter something like Dylan said where it's like we can only do stuff for them, I'm not going to do that, because I mean I will support Ukraine, but I don't want to be tied down by the government here. I'm not tied down by my own American government, so I don't like by being like a corporate press or anything, so I wouldn't want to do that here either. But yeah, we'll look into that a lot further and let you guys know about that.
Welcome to Good Morning Kyiv, sponsored by Pepsi.
Sponsored by Pepsi. Exactly. Jeez.
People asked if Starsky's coming back on the show. We've covered this almost every morning. No,
he forgot
because
the
he didn't
donuts.
bring donuts,
Yeah.
so he got himself banned.
Yep.
In fact, the new ruling to come on the show is you have to be a bearded man, and he's also hasn't got a beard. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's.
But
That's a reasonable regulation.
I mean, I try to be fair and reasonable with my decisions.
But he's not. He both has no beard and is bald. That's too much.
too much.
Hey,
two L's.
We
two,
have
two
to
check marks.
maintain standards, don't we, Dylan? I mean, you can't have men with that little hair when we've clearly got so much. It just makes us feel uncomfortable.
Some people would argue though it's a counterbalance.
Yeah, it is. It could be. It could be like an equilibrium thing.
But we don't want balance. We just want like a dictatorship
and donuts.
of good morning bearded men of Kyiv.
That's fair.
Live.
Yeah.
That's fair. Maybe we can do like a second status citizen, like a caste system of hair and beards.
I think so. I think absolutely. You know, like as long as they appreciate that they're not like the god-bearded men that we are,
Yeah,
and
they're not
there's a
equal to us. Yeah.
maybe they can they have to sit on the floor when they're on the show or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
You know, like I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's we're about equality.
But Starsky's coming on tomorrow, though. He'll be on tomorrow with a beard. Starsky's watching right now, applying the beard ointment right now.
We've got
Comes
him.
on, it's just like black marker.
We've got
a little like twirly mustache.
He has to turn up like that. Like, absolutely. Perfect. I think beyond that, everyone enjoys Dylan's energy
Yeah.
when he talks about things. I actually start sweating and panicking personally, because I'm like,
You don't want to say the wrong thing.
I just don't. I need more energy, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to sort of feed off Dylan's.
For me though, it's like certain topics like provide me like a energy basically. Like if it's a topic that I absolutely don't give a shit about, I will not like. I will be tired, or I don't care. Like I'll look away. But for me at least, when it comes to something like Ukraine or like things I actually can talk about, like I'm like you, where I'm just like I drink coffee basically, but in my brain or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the war is my life at this point. Like, it's everything I think. I mean, when I'm not here, all I'm thinking about is here, right? All I'm talking about is here. All I'm looking online is more footage from here. Yeah. So it's, I fill myself with as much information as possible to the point that I feel like I'm gonna burst. That's what I wanna do. So when I come on shows, I can just do this. Also, I like doing shows with other people because I'm used to streaming online by myself, looking into the camera and talking to people through Discord. Being able to do a show in person with other people is very, very nice.
I sure love it too, because me same, because I'm at home looking through the computer screen in the U.S. talking about Ukraine, and it's like I'm so far away, and I don't have and being here is so much better because like you're here and you can see people and talk to them, and it's just a good time. A couple more, Alex, and then we'll call her and go get some breakfast.
People are they're just interested in you, Dylan, and like your educational background. Like, have you done like a journalism course or anything like that? Like, what's your
I dropped
history?
out of college to come to Ukraine.
Nice.
It was a very expensive decision. It basically yeeted all of my savings, but I don't regret it. I do it a million times over again. This is a learning experience I can never get in any classroom, that no journalism teacher could teach me unless they want to host the best. You know what? Maybe this is how journalism should be taught. Maybe somebody brings everybody here and gets a bunch of students killed. No, that's a brilliant idea. I immediately recognize how stupid that was. But no, I dropped out of college to do this. I was gonna study international relations. I did while I was in high school, like taking like an international relations course because I excelled enough in high school to be eligible to go to the University of Maryland and do that. But now I dropped out before I finished college. Didn't even get a 2-year degree.
Yeah, same actually. I can empathize with that because I also dropped out of college. I went to college again as an adult, a grown man. After I got out of the military, I tried once, didn't work out, and then I got my life together, and then went back to school again. I had a 4.0 GPA. I was heavily involved in organizations, and I was the president of a club, a treasurer of another club. I was doing great, and then the riots and the protests happened in the U.S., and I said, all right, well, that's what I'm doing, and I'm not going back to school, and now here I am in Ukraine.
I've relative to a lot of other experts in the field, my age is going to restrict me just because I only have had so many years to learn, period, right? And the more I do this, the more I learn, and I want to just like always remember that I wasn't born here. I don't have the same experience as people who were born here, and I need to continually learn about the local culture, local customs, and I'm determined to eventually learn the language. But so far, all I know is nationalist slogans. So I need to start learning words like ice cream and not like Batko Nash Bandera, Ukraine, and stuff outside of that. From like, so I think the main reason why I'm so focused on this is since I was in high school, I was interested in foreign policy and specifically like interested in the history of conflicts and war, and I was concentrated on the war in Syria while I was in high school, and I would follow it using open source intelligence. I think it was LiveMap that I used, which is not as good as what's the map software we both use that is good?
I use the Study of Wars now, and then I also use the Deep State map.
Deep State, that's the map I use. I love the Deep State map.
I like that it says Deep State just to trigger people that are in Tom Clancy world because they see that and they'll be like, the Deep State's real. They have a map.
Dude, I love how simple people's minds are on that. It's like it's National Socialist. So it's that low. It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Of course it's William Burns, son of the CIA director, obviously, which is a real theory that exists online. Have you seen that yet? Have you seen any of those posts?
No.
There are people who have done threads upon threads. I actually saw this like gigantic like wire wall connecting me to different U.S. government officials. And the allegation is that I am the grandson of the current CIA director. I didn't know if you knew that. I could give you all the best embeds. Yeah. And the reason why is because my name is Dylan Burns, and his name is William Burns. A common surname for people of Celtic background. That's all it is. and at least probably 200 people believe that.
I'm still waiting on my George Soros paycheck. I just got that one again today on my post about.
Just Cash Apps it to me now.
He just Cash Apps it to you. Yeah, I had a deal with him through PayPal, but I think like his 2-factor doesn't work anymore or something. So, but yeah, I had someone on my post about aiding Ukraine say, "You're writing a lot of weird posts lately. Are you being paid? Are you a Soros actor now?" Like, and I just responded, "Yeah, I pick up my Soros bucks today, actually, in Ukraine. I got to go to the local pharmacy and grab it." He sends it.
I mean, this is a very, very good set that we've got here in our Langley studio, though, isn't it? I mean, the green screen to make it look like we're actually in Ukraine and not operating from a bunker is, I think, shows you the wonders of modern technology. Even that bird that just flew over looked real, but it's not. None of this is real. So yeah, on that basis,
let's do one more question.
There
Alex,
is,
and then
well, there's something very important, and that is, Barry Mundy's mum's knitted Ukrainian.
That is adorable.
Yes. There's a viewer in the chat. Alex, explain it.
Yeah. Barry's mum's knitted a few of these because she's a legend, and she shipped them over from Australia. And Rick, the Ukrainian, gave this one to me yesterday, and I've carried it around the office and poking out the top of my bag.
He did. That was facts. He walked around Lyft yesterday because I'm actually going there with him now to get work done. But yeah, he walked around the tech office with the monkey and the backpack.
And the question that everyone asks, and they've been asking in the chat as well, is what is his name? No, he doesn't have a name, but maybe there can be some sort of viewer poll thing you can do in your Discord, I don't know, or whatever.
No. We haven't even decided on the podcast name.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
now we're doing other name projects.
we haven't named mine and Dylan. We had I actually had one that was good that came through. Someone said like it was like journalism based, and I can't remember the name of it now. Someone actually did come up with a really good one, and now I can't even remember the name of it.
Dylan, let's not make this competitive. It's just quite obvious that the bear is more important than the name of your podcast.
I'm not with the bear.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got problems, mate, have a word with him. Exactly. He's ready, mate. Look.
You think he's got a good right hook.
Yeah, mate, he's got reach.
He does have some long arms. He's already got his arm facing you, just ready to go, just in case.
If anybody here sees it, they're going to see the yellow-blue fighting me, they're going to take his side. They're going to jump
exactly. You're
exactly.
fucked, mate. You're taking him on.
Yellow and blue versus you. I think they're going to side with yellow and blue. All right. Final thoughts, Alex. We'll wrap her up and then head to breakfast. I'm getting hungry.
If you haven't already, check out Dylan's actual content, because he does get to do some pretty cool stuff and meet some amazing people. So get on there and look at that. And obviously make sure you listen to his Untitled podcast with Mercado as well, because maybe at some point it might get a name.
Untitled with Merc and Dylan or something.
Untitled with Merc, Dylan, and the Ukrainian monkey warrior.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a feature with us.
Maybe we can merge the two. Maybe that should be like
the monkey will be on Dylan's back,
on his shoulder for the show. I think it should become part of it. But no, it's been it's always good having Dylan on, as we said at the beginning, and people that are actually competent at what they do, other than complete jokers like me. So
and me.
Thanks very much, Dylan. It's always a pleasure, and I hope you get to sleep soon.
You guys are very nice to me.
Dylan, let's get your final thoughts. Anything you got?
I guess the one thing that has particularly gotten me heated recently is the Kevin McCarthy stuff, and I just want to highlight something. That the Russians rely on a lack of knowledge about the war. That's what they relied on in the last 8 years before the Russians did the 2022 invasion, and that's what they're trying to rely on now in order to make people either disinterested, not care, or don't think it's a worthwhile investment. That's why they try to downplay their own losses, upplay Ukrainian losses. That's why they spend so much and invest so much into disinformation campaigns online. That's why they tried to make connections with far-right conspiracy theorists and far-left conspiracy theorists as well across the world to try to peddle their propaganda. It's the reason why they hire Western journalists, and people don't know how RT hires Western journalists. What they'll do is they'll offer above market rates to aspiring journalists who, quite frankly, a lot of times couldn't make it somewhere else. And so if they're going to be offered an above market rate by RT, why not take up that opportunity? It's probably the only chance they're ever going to get on TV. And so they'll take these, a lot of times schmucks, and they'll peddle their propaganda. This is how they function. They want you to be misinformed, so you don't care or think it's a not worthwhile investment. There was a study done recently, and I thought it was a fantastic study because I wanted some data on this. It was really important to me. I wanted to know what was the difference before people knew key facts about the war and after they know key facts about the war. If you tell the average American, oh, the Russians visually confirmed have lost over 2,000 tanks as of May of this year, that the Ukrainians have taken over 50% of the territory that the Russians have captured since 2022. They captured back the only provincial capital, the city of Kherson, during the counteroffensive. That the Russians are basically dumping out the entirety of their Soviet stockpiles to try to struggle against Ukraine, a country 1/10 their size. About Russia's long-term goals in the region. If you just tell them a few facts, the point jumps in support is between 15 to 20%. We're talking about making the country go from 53 to 54% in support of Ukraine to 70%. The biggest jump, by the way, was amongst Republicans, which I think is a very interesting fact. And so I just want you guys to be vigilant. I want you guys to call out the disinformation when you see it, and just know that they rely on you being ignorant. So constantly learn. Make that brain be a sponge so that when people ask you, like, I heard, like, Ukraine blew up the dam, or I heard this about 8 billion Ukrainian Russian children killed in the Donbass, all crucified personally by Zelensky. And you can be like, nah, that's nonsense. That isn't true. And I think that it is important for that those who know what's going on here to be messengers, because nobody can support Ukraine unless they know about what's going on here. That's our job, to try to bring that information out to people, but then that information still needs to be spread around. And so I'd appreciate if you guys spread that stuff around. And one thing I would ask people to spread around, the Kyiv Independent just released a report showing what they described as a systematic killing of children, Ukrainian children, with small arms fire. That means shooting them with rifles. That's not artillery. That's not mortars. That's they see the kid and they shoot the kid. That type of stuff, if known by the wider American public, instead of the nonsense that has been pushed by charlatans like Tucker Carlson, we would see support for Ukraine spike immediately.
Being informed and being in the know is very important. Challenging your thinking. That used to be my slogan. Like when I first started my media, that was challenge your thinking. Because during the protests in 2020, I'd be out there and I would stream all of it, like from start to finish. Like we'd start, like while the protesters were like gathering and kind of chilling, I'd be off to the side and just like film the wide picture of them just standing there, to the marching, to the very end, to me going home. Like I literally was live for hours. And I'd still have people like telling me what the protests really were about and yada, yada, yada. And they listen to Tucker Carlson or other people. And I'm like, I am providing this, I'm providing the information for you unfiltered. So you don't even need to listen to some talking head about it. And people, I don't know, maybe it's a comfort zone, or maybe because the way I see it is a lot of their family and friends will go and they'll watch this, or so they feel like this is their existence, and anything challenging that existence makes them a lesser person or a traitor, which is insane. These are things that I've lived through personally. But yeah, it's challenging your understanding. And like you said, once people are more informed about it, the support for Ukraine will raise, because it's what's happening. It's the reality of the situation. Ukraine's liberated 50% of the territory. Dylan already talked about it. Kherson liberated, and right now in the counteroffensive, which I talked about 2 days ago, but I didn't last night. But Ukraine and around Robotyne in Zaporizhia, they're gaining ground there. Bakhmut liberated 2 villages last week in Klishchivka and Andriivka, and they're moving towards the T-1302 highway, which will help them encircle Bakhmut. Like, things are happening, okay? Ukraine is on the advancement. It's just political. If you haven't noticed, a lot of our gripes today and yesterday and the things we're upset about is political shit. Like with Poland and with McCarthy, or like politicians are muddying this bullshit, where Ukraine needs ATACMS, number one. Hopefully Biden and Zelensky can come up with ATACMS during the visit, but they need demining equipment, artillery, they need munitions, vehicles, drones, and the military will help carry out the victory that they've been carrying out since last year. The aid just needs to continue, and we can't falter with that. So, with that being said, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, go and check out Dylan's page, Dylan Burns TV, also Dylan Burns 1776 on Twitter. He's got our X or whatever the fuck now.
I'm a true patriot.
Yeah, because he's a true patriot. But check him out. Check out Alex Kanash YouTube channel. He posts shorts and other things as well with his NAFO truck fundraisers. Donate to our NAFO truck fundraiser. The link is in the description. Right, this is going to Yorkie Mom for all the help with the medical truck and the aid. But donate to our NAFO campaign. It's in the description. If you really want to make a difference and help, but also be a part of the history here in Ukraine, donate to that, because we get to deliver trucks here, we get experiences with the soldiers, and I get to come back to Ukraine and have amazing conversations like this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be live tomorrow with Operator Starsky and another special guest who I haven't met yet, and he's got some knowledge and insight that I'm excited to share. Kyiv content's coming, range content's coming, lots of stuff, you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Slava Ukraine.
Heroam Slava.
Bye, guys.